innovation, for design and thought and invention and all this kind of stuff. Interesting stuff, intriguing stuff. Okay, there's just so many directions that we can use our God-given thought, ability to think, our imagination, that is not involved in getting to the mind of the criminals, but we have to for our own survival, and we can't avoid it. We can't bury our head in the sand and prescribe to an ignorance is bliss philosophy and just say, I'm not going to confront it. It's too painful. Okay. And I'm just going this direction. We can't do that indefinitely. We can run, but we can't hide from the consequences that are facing all of us. If we don't confront it quite clearly, we're never going to extricate ourselves from this mess. As a collective species, we've got to care about the least of men. If we don't care about those that are having a harder time in this system than ourselves, we're nobody in the sight of God. We're like the ones Jesus said. He said, that day when I return, many are going to call on me and say, Jesus, but save me because I did this and that in your name, and I did this great thing and that great thing. I never knew you. Away from me. Because you did not understand fundamentally that God was the least of men. And until you care about the least of men as if it was your own brother, your own sister, as if it was Jesus Christ himself, you don't understand. Your heart is not right with God. It's like Isaiah said, he said, these people, they honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They think their hearts are with them, but they've self-deceived. They're deceived by the things of this world, the enticements, the entanglements of this world. And they're unfruitful, like the parable Jesus taught about the seed landing in the shallow soil, and the seed that landed in the briar bushes, and the seed that landed in rocky places, and then the seed that landed in good soil. Okay, we've got to be real. You've got to tap into the mind of God at the end of the day. You've got to tap into the highest understanding of everything. You've got to not only think outside the box, you've got to think way, way, way outside the box. You've got to think on a cosmic level. Okay, a cosmic level reminds me of these people that know about the UFO issue. These have cosmic clearance. They're all over the internet now. They cannot keep quiet, but it's all a matter of fact. We've had countless astronauts speak out saying, "Oh, it's all a matter of fact." Glenn said, "Hey, one of these guys came down and landed, and yeah, an alien popped out, and what is he? He hallucinates? It's an astronaut, for crying out loud." These people aren't making up stuff. I just watched a video all about these UFOs shutting down the nuclear missile sites. I believe all that. God is involved. Angels, there's holy angels, there's fallen angels. The commonality is that they can fly, but I don't want to digress too far. But the point is that we are cosmic creatures, and we're called on to tap into cosmic understanding. Think way, way, way outside the box. So just being honest. It doesn't take a great deal of smarts and intellect. It doesn't take a genius to understand these things. Like it's written, out of the mouths of babes and sucklings comes this wisdom. Okay? Wisdom is proved right by all her children. Kids understand stuff that so many adults don't understand. If I speak logically to a children about how it would be if God runs the world, if I talk to them about the issues of money and the problems that are caused by money, do you think they would disagree with me? Because I speak with logic. I'm willing to do the math. I'm willing to define a term like fiscal conservatism. I'm willing to define terms like a good, generous, liberal person and what their policies mean, and talk about free speech and what that means, and freedom, absolute freedom versus a particular definition for freedom. It didn't cost me anything, so it was free, or I'm not in jail, so I'm free, or I have free speech according to the Constitution, when really we don't. We're self-censoring 6 ways to Sunday, aren't we all? Think about it. Think about it. If you're mortally afraid, deathly afraid of saying the wrong thing because it's not PC, okay, do you understand the implications? I mean, the consternation that you'll bring down, the wrath of not only perhaps an individual, but a huge swath of the population that will be just reviling you as scum, as a demon, as villainize you. Okay, do you understand? I mean, so a lot of us would much rather break a law, okay, than to break that PC code, right? I mean, isn't it a lot more distasteful to face the wrath of somebody that thinks what you said was completely out of line, okay, than face breaking the law? I mean, so we are in dire straits as a species, as a civilization. We are divided at the hand of no less than Satan, okay? And we've got to understand what gives him his power. Without money, he'd have no power. This is the root, this is the jugular of Satan, okay, is getting to the bottom of this monetary fraud that's inflicted on us all from birth through this tax, this onerous tax that's put on us called the cost of living. And how often do you hear people conveying that factual information to you, that indeed it's true, the cost of living is a tax. It is a pernicious tax, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse as society has regressed. And who can say we haven't regressed? Okay? When last week I clearly in the series of videos I defined what it means to progress. What does it mean to progress? If you're not getting more and more free, not just some select people. Oh yes, well now I'm successful, I'm free. What are you talking about? American capitalism, the best in the world, is the best house in a bad neighborhood, and you know, our poorest have it better than the richest in other countries. And I've heard Alex Jones and a lot of people say the same kind of thing. And so many people applaud, give accolades to that kind of thought system. And I say, do they really understand? Who are they talking to? Okay, get people in there that know how to define progress. Progress means we're coming out of slavery. Okay, we are becoming more free. And if our currency we're chasing our tail, we're running into the sand. If our currency is worth less and less and less, that tax is going up. That's what it means. The tax on your very existence, your right, your privilege to survive, to exist, keeps going up through debasement of currency. That is provable. It's a matter of fact, and nobody can refute that fact. It's just the way it is, folks. I know the difference between regression and progression, and everybody else ought to too. And please forgive me if I come across arrogant, because I sure don't mean to. And if I was talking to John Rappaport, please, brother, don't be offended. Look, I love you, man. You're one of my absolute favorite people. I trust you. Listen, the greatest compliment I can ever pay anybody is to say I would trust you implicitly to run the Federal Reserve, okay? Absolutely. I would say that about Alex Jones, all these people that I criticize even. Joel Skousen, Colonel Anthony Schaefer, Rand Paul, Ron Paul, Max Kaiser, just to name a few. I mean, probably almost all of Alex Jones's reporters and the vast majority of his guests. And these are people that I can vehemently disagree with at times. But what it comes down to is there's different methods to fix things. And in their mind, I understand they've got an idea about how it would work. But at the end of the day, if I feel like I can trust them, if they have integrity and honor, if they're upright, decent human beings that believe in God above money, okay, money is the God of this world, okay, then I know I can trust them with the keys to the town, because basically that's what you have. If you are in charge of the issuance, the printing of currency, okay, you have the keys to the town. You have the most powerful position on earth if you're running the Federal Reserve, because America, being the most powerful country in the world, being the world's reserve currency, we affect economic policy all over the world. We can upset it, in a million different ways. Okay, so fundamentally, if you're running the Federal Reserve, then you're running the world. Okay, you are deciding how it's going to be. And so the greatest compliment I can pay anyone, and John Rappaport, I didn't mean any offense by saying, but it's easy to get into an elitist mindset. But what he said about these gangs suggesting that they get paid, for not being criminals and not spraying graffiti or whatever the case may be. I don't know all the details of what he was going into, but Essentially, that's what I derived from what he was saying, was that so it was a form of extortion, and I'm not into that. I'm not into that entitlement on that level that I'm willing to extort it from anybody. I don't. But I do believe that the earth belongs to everybody. I'm whatever the opposite of an elitist is, okay? And that would be an equalitarian, okay? That's an egalitarian. And to me, that's just being a good American, a constitutionalist. And I know that John Rappaport is that, okay? I know he is. You know, talking about the vaccines, I mean, you know, people get into a lot of issues. They delve into a lot more deeper than I do. And they research it and all this. And I suggest everyone does. If you're into getting flu vaccines or any of this stuff, just do your homework, okay? Do your own research, because you will always find different experts that say different things. So you can't say, well, this one expert that I trust a lot. Remember, any of us are subject to being deceived. I believe we're born masters of self-deceit. So the idea that if somebody that is already deceived is telling you something and they really believe it themselves, remember, it's very convincing. It's very easy to believe them. So, you know, if we don't, we've got to understand that yes, people can be very convincing if they believe what they're telling you, but they themselves might be wrong. It's that simple. So listen to different experts, and at the end of the day, we all have to make our own decision about things like vaccines. But the government can't mandate your children or anybody else get a vaccine. If they're worried about you spreading diseases, then let them get vaccinated. Okay, it's that simple. Who would argue with that? But there's all these experts out there that would argue with that. They'll say, no, it's your fault that, you know, these people are getting disease. You're bringing disease in. You're unwilling to get vaccinated. But the government can't force you to pierce your skin. That's unconstitutional. Nobody can force you to do that. That's obviously unconstitutional. Okay, so no. We've all got to say no in unison as one voice and just say, look, even if you believe in vaccines, you've got to believe in people's rights not to get vaccinated, not to vaccinate their children. Okay, so I mean, I haven't done all the research, but I listen to those that have. And I'm convinced that there's a lot of vaccines people probably ought not have. And they probably shouldn't have given my son the hepatitis B vaccine on day one, because that's probably what killed him. Even though the coroner, oh, well, we don't know. It's called SIDS, and they don't want to do any work. They don't want to find out. They don't want to tell my wife and I about the vaccination, this super fund, this vaccine damage fund that's set up. How can they do this stuff? The mainstream media won't touch that with a 10-foot pole. But there's this multi-billion-dollar vaccine damage fund that's set up. People need to know this stuff. Because then I could have found out 2 weeks later he's dead. Perfectly healthy child, born perfectly healthy. And then he's dead 2 weeks later. Rand Paul says he would never allow his children to be vaccinated on day one with this hepatitis B vaccine. But my wife and I were oblivious to this. Whatever. That's what we believe, like everybody else. Just do what you have to do. So, you know, is it deliberation? I don't know. Some people think it is. They think that these people are that diabolical, that it's by deliberation, that it's eugenics of some sort. Well, weed out the poor people. We don't need them. Social Darwinism. It's in full swing now. So, you know, this is the craziness of this world we live in, and we've got to face the music. We've got to wake up and smell the coffee. Or in this case, wake up and smell the maggot-ridden pile of excrement. Okay, excuse for a civilized society. Okay, they're selling us this intense regression as progression because, oh, it's a later time in history, so we've progressed through time. So that's my definition of progress. When it's antithetical to reality. That's it. So what we're living in is an unreality from birth. We don't know it, and we've got to wrap our minds around that. I'm sorry if I come across arrogant. I don't. And remember, the greatest compliment I could pay anybody in the world, and it's probably anybody listening to me, I would trust you to run the Federal Reserve Bank, okay? Unless you're an evildoer that's just listening to me for whatever power you want to figure out my mind, get in my head, gaslight me, or whatever purpose is an evil person that's decidedly wicked, an intentional deceiver that mocks God, that hates God, that is committed the unforgivable, unpardonable sin of blasphemy against the Holy Spirit of truth. Okay, if you're one of those people watching me, I'm not talking to you. But anybody else that would listen to me and say, this guy's right, he knows what he's talking about, he shows common sense, he's nuts and bolts, he's willing to do the math, he's showing logic in his speech, he knows what he's talking about, he's studied, he's done research, he's been to school, he knows what he's talking about. It can work, but there's this huge element of people that don't want it to work. It's that simple. Understand the vast amount of jobs that would disappear tomorrow. So you say, well, why do these people maintain these jobs? Why would they pay them? They control all the money. Why don't they just eliminate those jobs by eliminating poverty? And it'd be so much cheaper. At least desperate poverty. Okay, eliminate desperate poverty. And you'll see crime plummet overnight. I guarantee, I promise.